Another day, another Shrek theory. What's going on, you guys? This is more Bad Help 24, and continuing on with the DreamWorks More Theory by the Theorizer. We're hitting up some more Fairy Godmother theories. This one's part 2. We're probably gonna do part 3 in this video as well, and maybe part 4. Who knows? It may be a triple feature today. Who knows? If it's not a triple feature today, then it's definitely gonna be a double feature. We got part 2 and 3 lined up today, and maybe part 4 if we have time, just making sure. We're gonna find out what the Fairy Godmother's true intentions are with her plan to take over far, far away, because we already got a little bit of details about that in the last 2 videos that we did. This one's part 2. If you have not watched the previous videos, I highly suggest you watch them, or at least watch my reaction to them, because, I talk about a lot of shit in this video. I know these intros are getting really, really weird. Don't worry. Once we get back to the malt shit, it's gonna go back to normal. Anyway, without wasting any further time, Shrek, the horrors of the Fairy Godmother's darkest plan, Fairy Godmother Part 2 theory. Let's go!
Dama Fortuna, aka the Fairy Godmother from Shrek, is wickedly villainous.
Yes.
I made a bunch of backed and theorized claims about her in the first part to this now 2-part series.
Yeah.
Such as how she actually
It's a 4-part
wanted
series.
Shrek to save Fiona
Yes.
for her own grand scheme.
I mean, we already went over that, how she kind of wanted Shrek to rescue Fiona, and then sent her own son to the tower only after Shrek saved Fiona, as a way of, testing, his loyalty to the Fairy Godmother, to see just how far he would go to, help his mom with whatever. Does he know? Does he know? I don't think Prince Charming was aware of his mom's plan to take over Far, Far Away. I think he was just like, yeah, sure, you know what, I'll rescue the princess. Oh, look! Princess is not here, but the Fairy Godmother was like, okay, here's how the plan's gonna go. He doesn't know that I am sending him to the tower after this ogre kidnaps Fiona. Well, not kidnap, saves Fiona. I don't know why I keep saying the word kidnap when Shrek saved Fiona and stuff like that, but it was all a part of her plan. Even though it didn't look like it, it was all a part of her evil, diabolical plan, because she is psychotic. We know that for a fact. She is absolutely 100% the true villain of these movies, let me tell you.
I also concluded that she is responsible for all of the villains in Far, Far Away being evil, and she did it because she wants her son to marry Fiona,
of course,
so that she can be on top of Far, Far Away's political setting. I figured that this was all
the entire end goal of this whole thing is, for her to become the all-supreme ruler of Far, Far Away, because, let's face it, in a world where she becomes the ruler of Far, Far Away, that would not be good. That wouldn't be a good timeline to be in. If there was a timeline where she was the ruler of Far, Far Away, it wouldn't be good. What would she do? How would she rule over Far, Far Away? That's my question. She's evil, but how evil is she?
Because she wanted revenge on the kingdom, perhaps because she had anger regarding the previous royals, Queen Lillian's family, and because she wants to take everything over because of her newfound inferiority complex. It's utterly imperative that you watch part 1 before this, or if you've already seen it, rewatch it immediately, because that video will flow right on into this one. And here's the surprise. I have more evidence for all of this that starts making my whole theory even more likely, and infinitely more shockingly creepy.
Let's go. Now we have the, kind of modern day-ish, Theorizer things here.
Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and as you know, in part 1 I claimed that Dama Fortuna has ruined the lives of many villains, making them evil. More proof of her possibly ruining the lives of the villains is seen in Rumpelstiltskin. It just so happened that Shrek saved Fiona immediately as...
Yeah, I've never seen these kind of things in Shrek Fiend 4, so I don't know what he's talking about here, but I think that he'll explain enough for me to get the general idea of what is going on in Shrek Fiend 4.
Harold and Lillian were about to sign a paper that would throw away their kingdom.
Yes.
The fairy godmother's time with all of this is utterly impeccable, and Rumpelstiltskin's rage only grew from that point forward.
It's perfect.
She's creating villains. Another thing I talked about in part 1 is the godmother's neglection of her son, Charming.
Yeah.
She doesn't truly care about him.
She doesn't.
He is the means to her end, to her domination of the kingdom.
She uses him, like, through and through. She only sees him as a pawn in her like game, in her plan to take over far, far away. She doesn't see him as a son. She sees him as this thing that she can control to do whatever she wants to fit her needs. Like, from someone who is supposedly a fairy godmother, like, she's evil. You would not expect a fairy godmother to be this evil, yet here we are. Dema Fortuna, or whatever her name is using her son for her plan. Hello? Like, is anyone gonna question that?
I go on to explain the instances in which she doesn't tell Charming much about her plans, and this right here is more evidence of that. Charming had no idea that Shrek would show up and take Fiona. And
does he know? No, he doesn't. He does not know. The question, does he know? No, he doesn't. He does not know.
One, I made it very clear that the godmother wanted all of this to happen.
Oh, of course.
And she in fact was the witch who casted the curse on Fiona to begin with.
Yeah.
The final thing I discussed was in my major 2016 Shrek timeline video, and it was that the magic mirror, which advertised Fiona as a candidate for rescue,
was sent.
Was a strange thing in the movie.
Fiona, it was sent by, if I remember from that amazing Shrek Pacific timeline video, it was sent by her mom to the kingdom where Lord Farquaad was, because there were a lot of knights there. And her idea was that these knights could save Fiona. But she was also unaware of the fairy godmother's plan. So it was a double clueless. Charming didn't know. Fiona's mom didn't know. Double clueless.
Fiona was supposed to be on lockdown by the godmother, and she was only supposed to be rescued by Charming, so... who let the mirror in on this information about Fiona? In my 2016 timeline video, I said
you said the mom.
Queen Lillian, who suspected the godmother of evil but knew nothing of the true plans, and thus let the advertisement reach Farquaad. But now, I think it was the fairy godmother who sent it. I believe it to a very high extent. Lillian never could have slipped the mirror past the godmother's plans unless the godmother wanted it to, or she did it herself. So she wanted Shrek to save Fiona. Perhaps the godmother was even behind Farquaad wanting to exterminate fairy tale characters. Perhaps she's been granting him his wishes and forced all of the fairy tale characters into Shrek's swamp so he'd be forced to meet Fiona. After all, Dema Fortuna was supposed to be in the first movie, but it was mysteriously scrapped. So, I looked for more, and when watching the first Shrek movie over again, I realized something very specific and odd about Fiona's curse. Something in its wording. Her curse turned her...
By night one way, by day another. This shall be the norm. Until you find true love's first kiss, then take love's true form. So, she has a different form by night and in the morning. And it's the normal for her until she finds her true love and kisses her true love, and then she takes on the form of that love. I wonder what he's gonna say.
Her into an ogre by night and kept her human during the day.
Yes.
Until her first kiss of true love, which would turn her presumably back into a human, after she kissed one. In
Yes.
the first Fairy Godmother video I made, and more primarily in my big major Shrek theory of 2016,
Yeah.
I made the very accurate claim that it was in fact the Fairy Godmother herself who cast the initial curse on Fiona.
Yes.
She was the witch who set it all into motion, as that was how it happened in the original Shrek book. The Godmother did this to, jumpstart her master plans, but there's something interestingly unique about the wording to this spell. If she truly wanted Charming to save Fiona and turn her into a human, then why would she even allow this curse to have her stay an ogre to begin with? Why would the Godmother make Fiona specifically allowed to become one or the other if she was so desperately wanting Fiona to go with Charming? And
What the fuck was that sound? That's true. I mean, if her intention was to have her son kiss Fiona and turn her into a human, why would she want Fiona to have a choice of turning into an ogre by having Shrek save her? That's weird. If her intention was to have Fiona turn into a human and take true love, and take love's true form, as the quote goes, then why have Shrek save Fiona if the Godmother wanted Fiona to turn into a human? Wouldn't that destroy the entire plan? If Fiona was to turn into an ogre instead, and take love's true form that way? That's a thinker. That's a real thinker.
Charming alone. Why not just make the curse say, true love's kiss will revert you into a human? Well,
Yeah.
she didn't do that because there's a secret agenda behind this, and she wanted Shrek to save Fiona. She somehow knew Shrek specifically would be the one to save Fiona. It's why she sent Charming in immediately after her rescue. I said all of this in part 1, but why make Fiona an ogre? Why make Shrek specifically save her? And how did she know it would all play out so precisely? If Dama Fortuna really is behind even the first movie's plot.
She's methodical. That's the only solution. She's methodical in her plan. She knew exactly what was going to happen, and that's why it's her plan. She knew exactly how it was going to play out. Her intention was to turn Fiona into an ogre then, right? Because if she wanted Shrek to save Fiona, then presumably that would have put a hole in her plan, unless that was her plan, unless her plan was not to have Prince Charming kiss her to turn her into a human. Rather, it was her plan to have Shrek save Fiona, and then have Fiona turn into an ogre. Because, like you said, the wording's a little weird. She didn't say, true love's kiss will turn her into a human. She said, true love's kiss will turn into love's true form. Ergo, turn her into whoever she kisses. Turn her form into whoever she kisses. The wording's a little there, and it opens up the idea of what he's saying, that the Fairy Godmother planned all this out from the beginning. Like, she knew exactly what was going to happen, and it wasn't a hole in her plan, it was the original plan all along. We're getting into some cool, like, conspiracy kind of stuff with the Shrek movies, and I'm here for it. I'm so fucking here for it that I cannot wait to see how all of this ties into, like, the overarching DreamWorks more theory that he has going on here. Because we still have a lot of videos to go. We still have a few Shrek videos, we have some Donkey theories, we have the Over the Hedge theory, we have that one DreamWorks timeline video theory, we have more videos to get to. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be absolutely fucking mind-blowing, and I hope you guys take over the ride.
And everything. Why Shrek? Why ogres? I know the answer. The fairy godmother's powers root from old-fashioned and historical witches, sort of like the ones from Shrek 4 kind of representing. The fairy godmother has deep roots in prophecies and alchemy.
Of course.
Yes, that kind of eerie witch. She needed Fiona's savior to be Shrek because it was always Shrek. That's how she knew. She has the ability to predict the future. I know. It's like outlandish sounding, and I intentionally shied away from...
So her original idea was to have Shrek save Fiona instead of have her son save Fiona. Why, though? Why was her original plan to have Fiona turn into an ogre, then? That makes... Does it make sense? Everything so far has made perfect sense. And that's what's scary. He introduces these bullet points in a way that sounds like it makes sense. And he introduces these videos in a way where they flow and piggyback off of each other. Like the Penguins of Madagascar theories piggyback off of the All Hail King Julian theories. And stuff that was in those videos made perfect sense because we saw the All Hail King Julian analysis videos. It's the same thing here. We've watched the previous two videos here, so it makes sense that we're watching the second part and he's piggybacking off of the first part. It's insane.
From talking about this in part 1, but now I have evidence
Yeah, you
staring me in the frickin' face. Her name is Dama Fortuna. In the Shrek book, she was a fortune teller.
Fortune.
Her name means Lady Luck or Dame of Fortune. That name applies to her making others' fortunes come true, but it also means fortune teller, her occupation in the book. She uses tarot cards to narrate the first quarter of the story.
She does.
And she essentially stands outside of the story and prophesizes things. If that isn't undeniably stunning proof that she's prophesized all of this and then manipulatively acted upon it, I don't know what is. It makes me think that maybe her magic is quite simply an illusion perceived by everyone, and all of her power is rooted in her ability to prophesize and predict the future. Magic's just a side effect of her paganistically vast knowledge base. So, now that we've dealt with the idea that she manipulated Shrek far...
Very, very quickly, I heard my ding go off. It was just a strange note of someone I follow is going live. Let me just bring my phone over here. This is an insane theory, and I can't wait for part 3 of this. This will be a double feature, by the way. This will not be a triple feature. This might be a double feature. I don't know. I might say part 4 later. Yeah, I might say part 4 in the cult leader trumpet player thing.
Farquaad and Far Far Away, we finally once again have to return to her basis for all of this. We know she's doing this to become the leader of Far Far Away's royalty, and we know that it likely had something to do with her abilities being feared and shunned by Lillian's family, but that's not all. What exactly did she do? Well, her cottage-turned-factory might give us some clues. Possibly, it could have very well been her first transitions of people. Using her magic to grant happy endings was likely seen as frightening and demonic back before she made it commonplace, and I bet she was shunned for it. Sort of like Rumpelstiltskin from the 4th movie. Shunned. So she began granting unhappy endings in defiance. Cruel fates in return, creating villains which only would have amplified things back at her, to the point of her removing the highest regals and forcing the position to be open for a new king, who she was going to make sure was Harold.
Yeah.
Lots of famous people are famous for initially frowned upon things which are forgotten over time, leaving only a superstar. Oftentimes, a superstar with a famously bad attitude, as seen in her posters. She turned from forbidden and dangerous into scandalous-clad and notorious. The notoriety of these stars.
Yeah, because she's famous now in this
in her case,
world.
Erased from the minds of all, leaving only A-list celebrities. And yes, she could have easily erased her darkest past from the minds of the citizens. She has memory potions. How do I know? I know because she can make people fall in love, which logically would require the erasing of various emotions and memories of opposing events. Perhaps it was her transition of the city, or rather her transition of one of the people on her walls of fame, but it was something that got her shunned by the ex-royals. She even advertises her creation of the Wicked Witch of the West in her cottage, which I think might have even been the tipping point for the royals. Either way, it was the same thing that we see her doing in the movie that got her shunned, and that's pushing her for fame and power. And the fairy godmother was finally put an end to by the combined power of her own magic and the central man at the start of her whole plan.
Of course.
How poetic. Until next time, I'm the Theorizer.
Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get into part 3 of this. Who is Charming's dad? The question that we all want to know.
Shrek. I'm back again for the fairy godmother. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts to this 3-part theory, I'll link them in the top right corner now, because they are crucial to watch before this one, and they're pretty good. So do that, then return here and watch this, because I've made a discovery about Prince Charming's parentage, which came as a shock to me, will come as a shock to
We know
you.
his mom
I
is the fairy
so
godmother.
hard that I started shaking like a tased puffer fish.
We know his mom is the fairy godmother, but we never see his dad, and I think we're gonna find out who his dad is in this video.
Hello, I'm the Theorizer,
Hello.
and my analysis of Godmother Dama Fortuna has come to a 3rd part, and it's a bit of a mind blower.
Yeah?
Here we go. I'm just going to get this much out right now. I do have reason to believe that Charming does have a father, and was not simply just created by the fairy godmother. It was something I pondered upon before, and it doesn't have much weight bearing on the fact that the godmother still carelessly used him, but
Yeah.
I believe he was born. And this all ties together some hellish madness into a small idea that blows everything into new territory. The reason the fairy godmother is evil is because she's trying to rule far, far away's royal setting so that she can destroy the kingdom in an act of revenge against the previous royals, Queen Lillian's family.
Yeah.
In the last 2 parts, I claimed that maybe they had shunned and ridiculed Dama Fortuna for her witchcraft and creating unnatural.
Is this
happy
not the case
endings,
now?
but now I think I have an idea that makes her anger feel a little more sensible. I believe Charming was actually born from one of the royals. Yes, I think
Huh?
that Charming is the son of the fairy godmother and one of the members of Lillian's family. And this was the core reason as to why she was so brutally shunned. The fairy godmother was considered to be an external stain on their family. This kind of thing has happened in many real-life worlds.
Now that would make sense. That would make sense. Not that she was shunned, but because she was thought to be an external stain on the family. And if she got it on with one of the royals, that would have put a major stain on things, which is why they would have, like, you know, exiled her. Because they didn't want someone in the royal family having relations with this, lack for a better word, witch. They didn't want anyone having relations with this witch. So, I mean, makes sense. It does make sense.
Royal families and powerful political powerhouses in which the mistress on the side is afterwards publicly ridiculed and forcefully hated.
Yeah.
And while this does neatly tie up my theory on Dame Fortuna's revenge, it then opens up a plethora of other questions
Who
that
is
I
the
can
dad?
luckily answer in a brilliant fashion. Firstly, we do know Charming visually looks like he belongs to this royal family.
Yeah,
Golden
he does.
royal hair, blue eyes, all of it.
He's
is
got the
themed
facial
toward
complexion.
the shared traits between Queen Lillian and Arthur, all the same. And they're the only 3 characters that really share this. This is nowhere near coincidental.
Maybe
And also,
Arthur?
you must consider the fact that Charming actually is a prince, and he says far, far away, legally is rightfully his. There are no other kingdoms around that he could even be a legal prince of except Duloc, and I highly...
I'm gonna say right now, Arthur is dad. Because like you said, there's only 3 people that look like Charming, and that's Charming himself, Lillian, and Arthur. Those are the only 3 people. Charming is 100% a descendant of the royal family.
I really doubt that Daddy Farquaad is a real thing outside of fan fictions from a meme lord's sleep paralysis delusion. So then the question it brings up is, who is he the son of?
Yeah.
Well, the consensus by the Shrek community is that Lillian had at least one other brother who was the mysterious father of Arthur, and she of course had a father and a mother.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lillian's mother can't be Charming's father,
Of course.
leaving only Arthur's dad and the old king as candidates. The age difference between Prince Charming and Arthur is both significant and minor at the same time. Assuming Charming is in his mid to late 30s and Arthur is around 20, this could still mean either the old king or his son is Charming's dad. However, I do in fact believe it to be the king, because while Arthur's dad did mysteriously disappear from Arthur's life, making him a suspicious candidate, the king had far more sway and influence and likely more ability to ruin the Godmother's life. Also, her age matches what his would be, and Lillian, at the time of Charming's birth, would have been a young adult. Young, beautiful witch and an older, regal man. Kind of an interestingly cliched royal scandal. I believe their relationship was meant to be a secret of sorts, but the Godmother likely did it to have a tie to the family regardless. So, whoa, I need to slow down here.
She wants to be tied in.
What I think happened bit by bit. Dama Fortuna, a young and beautiful good witch, began a secret relationship with Lillian's father, King Unnamed.
Okay.
A child is conceived either accidentally or by Dama Fortuna's secret intentions, and the relationship begins to leak out. The king and the royals shun and ridicule Dama Fortuna for this. She births Charming, who has the royals' signature wavy blonde hair and blue eyes. Lillian's brother left, and possibly with the fairy godmother had a son, Arthur Pendragon. Oh, that brings a whole new layer onto this. Arthur's mom is also the godmother. I have no proof for it, but it's entirely possible.
It's possible,
the
yeah.
reason Arthur's father left after dropping him at the school is because he needed to save his kingdom, but he was promptly stopped and destroyed by the fairy godmother, who'd already disposed of the king and queen, and had already begun her plans to spark a relationship between Harold the Frog and Princess Lillian Pendragon. It is so neatly tying all of this together, it's nothing short of brilliantly perfect. And I mean, it's odd to include a random subplot about Arthur's dad in Shrek 3. They had it for the bonding effect between Shrek and Arthur, but they never really dwell on it. I sometimes wonder if Charming is Arthur's father, but that obviously makes absolutely no sense.
It makes no sense.
I think the fairy godmother quite simply was desperate for fame in the beginning, but it escalated to full-on royal power after she was shunned and ridiculed. She birthed Charming intentionally to worm her way into the royals permanently, but it backfired in her face, and she's very evil. I think she was the one who removed the Headless Horseman's head so he couldn't play the flute like his lifelong dream was stated as. I think she was hoping that Harold the Frog would die immediately after she did because of his overused frog age. And for those wondering why she couldn't avoid her death, it was because she had no idea how it would happen. She may be able to read the future, but only in tarot cards. And that's not simply enough. So now what do you think of her? Rude, fame-starved serpent turned supervillainous dictator? Check. She's nuts. Her ties to the royal family were scandalous and sexual. She wormed her way around everyone, likely killed all of Lillian's family discreetly, and Charming is at the core of everything. But his lack of any true knowledge is why, when he was on his own, he flailed around unorganized like a stupid head. Shrek 3, everybody. I hope this was a relatively satisfying semi-conclusion to my trilogy on the Fairy Godmother. Until next time, I'm the Theorizer.
But you're not done yet, dude. You still have one more theory to go, and what time is it at? It's at almost 30 minutes. I think this is a solid video to get out today. But the next time we go here, we will tackle the final part of the Fairy Godmother theory. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be awesome. I'll see all of you in the next video. Later.